Okay, Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And we can learn a lot from people who've already did. I learned a lot from my best friend on earth, Brooks Kennedy. We had worked together at the Richland Hills Church for many, many years. He had moved to Lufkin. And last year I got a call from Lufkin, and Brooks was on the phone. And Brooks was dying with COVID, and he asked me to do his funeral. Now, I've had people ask me to do their funerals before, but John never when they were dying. And so on the phone, we planned what I'm saying today, because that was his funeral. And we planned his funeral together by way of the phone just a few days before he died there in the hospital. And it was a touching thing on how much we can learn from somebody like that, and how hard it is to give up, Jan, those that we love, and what it means when they die. And even though they've died, you with Ann being dead in last year, still day by day, hour by hour, you recall a lot of things that they have taught to us here. And so I'd like to talk for just a few minutes today about what we planned on that funeral, about this from this telephone call. And it's touching. I may break down a few times in it, I don't know. But everything we need to know really about life, we can learn from Noah's Ark. Number one, don't miss the boat. A lot of people missed the boat, didn't they? 7 billion people on earth today. Historians, experts tell us there were probably about 4 billion people on earth during the time of Noah's Ark. All but 8 missed the boat. Noah and his family. 4 billion dead. You can see how important a situation this was. And it's estimated that Noah and his family worked building the boat, Noah's Ark, from 55 to 75 years. This was no small project. This was a gigantic undertaking. Brent and Karen just got back from visiting an exact replica size of Noah's Ark. And it's huge when you get to go there, and I hope everybody can get to go there someday. It's in Kentucky. But what an impression it makes when you're just walking up, or when you look at this gigantic undertaking here. And we use our opportunities so much to procrastinate. Don't give up on your opportunities. Don't miss your opportunities. We have so much time to do good. God just led us through a virus here. We probably had more time on our hands the last 2 years than at any time in our lifetime. How did we use it? Well, we did a lot of griping, didn't we? We did a lot of complaining, but all kinds of opportunities. I can't walk in my neighborhood now that my friends and families and neighbors don't come out and talk to me and ask me to pray with them. It's been a gigantic change in our community. I think it has in your community, because opportunities are from God. And as the days come and go, think of all the opportunities that we have to do something in the name of God. Number 2, remember we're really all in the same boat. We're all sinners saved by grace, right? We're all sinners saved by the grace of God. You know, as Brooks and I talked on the phone that day, I had a new feeling about Noah's Ark that had never hit me before. I thought of how much God hates sin. I've studied about it, taught about it in Bible school, love teaching my grandchildren about it. You go in my house, you'll find Noah's Ark animals all over the house. They're so much fun. There's so many songs. But boy, does it teach 4 billion people dead how much God hates sin. We don't even like to talk about sin today. We like to have white lies and black lies, and we try to tone down everything. Most of the world are really uncomfortable when they think about a loving God, but how much God hates sin. I hope we'll pause in all these wars and all these complainings and all the things that are happening to think how much God hates sin enough that he would destroy the earth. But he saved those 8 righteous souls, Noah's family. Number 3, plan ahead. It was not raining a flood when Noah started building the ark. Plan ahead. People hate that word planning today. God wanted us to plan. He gave us his message. He gave us his gospel. He wants us to plan how to share it. Man, we plan about everything else, don't we? People plan their funerals. They buy their lots. They plan their estates. They plan their wills. They plan their work. Sometimes they plan their income tax. Sometimes they don't do it too well. But people plan everything except how to talk to their children about Jesus Christ, about how to talk to their neighbor about Jesus Christ, about how to talk to their family. Isn't it amazing how we forget to plan? Build a boat, 450 feet by 75 feet by 45 feet, 3 stories high. Would that be a simple undertaking? Be a gigantic undertaking. Experts tell us there should have been something like 70,000 animals on that boat. Can you imagine, Brent, you went and saw it? 70,000 animals on that boat. How many of you like to clean up dog poop? Probably didn't get a single hand to go up. I didn't see one go up there. Experts tell us there would have been, after a year and 17 days on that boat, 800 tons of manure. 800 tons of poop. It took a lot of planning. It was a huge undertaking. And it didn't just last for 40 days. They were on that boat a year and 17 days. Think what it had been like. Think of the planning and food and what took place. Think of what just taking care of one dog or cat can do to you. But think of what happened with 70,000 there. We live in a life that we sometimes plan everything in the world, Darrell, except how to teach the gospel right. But how important that is. Number 4, stay fit. Stay fit. Noah wasn't young when God asked him to start building the ark. I especially think about this church family here when I think about this. Stay fit. We're not that young anymore. Most of us aren't. The first thing to go on my legs, I used to have a pulpit for no reason. Now I like to have to lean on it to stand up over here. But we have to stay fit. Now, Brooks told me while we were talking on the phone that he lost 115 pounds so he could keep working in the kingdom. That's a lot of weight to lose, folks. 115 pounds. And then 5 years later, he dies with COVID. But we have to stay fit. It's so important. We tear down our bodies and disregard them so much. How we eat and how we live, we destroy our bodies, the temple of God there. And now that we're this age, and I just think of you ladies especially, I just want to say a sincere thank you. All these funerals, all this food, all this cleanup, all this time, just over and over and over you serve. And what's your pay? Not a cent, is it, Darrell? And you just go on and on and on, but you stay fit, won't you? Amen. Some of you have had surgeries, some of you have had falls, and what do just as soon as you get well enough to do something? You're up here serving. Amen. What a testimony to God. And, hey, thank you, Darrell. Let's not clap there. And God's grace, and you men the same way. Tom, I think if you carry those chairs in at these funerals here, and somebody says, well, what'll happen if you can't get them all in there? Knowing Tom, he'll just knock a window out. And we'll still have some way to take care of all the people that's been coming for all these funerals here. But what a tremendous image that I'll have in my life the day I die. I'll know when I die that this will be taken care of. I know that Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And I know that God found servants in the eyes of you people. And so stay fit. God told him to destroy this world, to build a boat. What a terrible, terrible situation. But to stay fit. Number 5, follow God's instructions with patience. Amen. Wow, that's what he did. He did it for a long time. It wasn't a short thing. Some of the newest things, they're so dismal, I'm not going to give them to you now. That may be time for another sermon. The newest research through the last 2 years, when we had more free time probably than ever in our lives, how much Bible reading has gone down, even among church members. It's down to nearly nothing, folks. It will make you cry when you see how little the Bible is down. We're down to maybe a minute or two a day on an average. It is so very, very important for us to know God's instructions, and we don't even know God's instructions. At least we didn't get it from the Bible as a general rule. And so God gave us this manual called the Bible to read, to study, to follow, to practice, to share. And we have to have that strength that Noah had to follow God's instructions, to follow God's manual today, the Bible, and to follow it very, very patiently. And number 6, don't listen to the critics. Don't listen to the critics. Daryl, how you like the critics about your building? Not very much fun, is it? How many critics you think Noah had? And his boys? And his wife? Wives, how do you like to be criticized? Not much fun, is it? And think Noah and that family are just working year after year after year. Where's the flood, Noah? Where's the rain? What in the world's going to float this contraption you're building out here? Noah, you've lost it. You have totally lost it. We don't even put you on the front pages of the headlines anymore. You've been doing this so long. Why don't you give up? Oh, think of all the things that had happened throughout that. Think of all the criticism. It was in 1962. I had just been chosen to be principal of an elementary school in rural Texas, just graduated from college. I would be the youngest principal in the United States. I'd also be the most ignorant. As Karen, as soon as I was chosen to be principal, I went over to visit the school where I would be principal. It was a nice school, a beautiful school, had a great reputation. And somebody told me about another school that was on the other side of the tracks. I drove over there, and it was in shambles. Buildings were terrible, run down. They had 3 teachers, none of them certified, qualified. In the history of that school, they'd never had a certified teacher. They had 60 students, 60 black students there, and they had never had a qualified teacher. The furthest they'd ever had anybody go to that school was starting the 6th grade. I said, God, this isn't right. There is no way this is right. And so we had an emergency meeting of the school board. I said, folks, this just isn't right. 60 kids over there, most of them can't read, most of them can't write. They'll never learn how to read or write. You've been doing this year after year after year. It's not getting any better, it's getting worse. We got to do something about it. Some things are always right and some things are always wrong, and this is wrong. And I'm the new kid on the block. I wasn't very popular. How would you like to go into a new community? About 1,300 people in that community, a lot of different churches. And I at once was asked to preach. I preached in every church in that town in the next 3 months. I don't care what their faith, what their belief was, they asked me to come and speak about integration. And by a pretty close vote, it passed. And I guess we were the first school in the state of Texas to integrate. You didn't have to do it in 1962. 1964 you did, but you didn't have to do it in 1962. And our teachers made a resolve that we would be a state laboratory school. We'd be a scientific school. We couldn't just bring 60 kids in and teach them because we didn't know how to do it. And we admitted we didn't know how to do it. So we became this laboratory school, and all of our teachers committed to go to the University of Texas each summer and learn as a laboratory school how to teach them, the Spanish, the whites, all together. Still a great system there to this day. And that's what we did. And so I started teaching in the University of Texas in 1962 also, and did for the next 5 years. But folks, some things are always right and some things are always wrong. And you know, you can't measure it by the amount of criticism. Brent, you ever get any criticism at your job? I'm sure you do. And whether it's right or it's wrong, you have a higher goal that's set. And our goal is not popularity. Our goal is not politics. Our goal is God. And God, what does your manual say to us? What's right? What's wrong? That was Noah's guide. It wasn't the criticism. He took the criticism, but it's what's right and what's wrong. And number 7, God's dream may be big. I'm sure Brent and Karen will get a chance to tell you some days. Here's a little town of 4,000 people, Williamstown, Kentucky. And they build a Noah's Ark there. What do you think it costs to build a replica of Noah's Ark today? Because of the Bible, we know the replica, we know what it ought to look like. What do you think it would cost to build it in today's dollars? Any guesses? $100 million. You think they'd ask the treasurer how much was in the bank? $100 million. You think anybody would come out in the middle of nowhere, 4,000 people in the town, you think anybody would come and see this contraption? Even through COVID, they has averaged over 1 million a year, folks. From nearly zero, what could we do, Daryl, here that get the people that excited? How many want to build a Noah's Ark? Daryl's latest project, by the way. But 1 million people come to see Noah's Ark out in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky, Williamstown, Kentucky, to see something like this. It doesn't have 70,000 animals on the ark, but it does have a large zoo there. And what a story. But I'll save that another time. But just think big. Do we think big in churches of Christ? As a general rule, we don't. And so as you go to bed tonight, last thing right after your prayer and you commit the night to God, just think big. Say, God, when I rise tomorrow, give me a new dream. And I want to do it to your glory. And number 8, no matter the storm, when we're with God, there's always a rainbow waiting. We've lost Sard, we've lost Ann, we've lost so many people in this congregation. I was counting yesterday. I've been to 52. Many of them I've done. 52 funerals in the last 2 years. Folks, we've lost a lot of people in this congregation. Not just COVID, but for many other reasons also. And friends of people. You've probably been to more funerals. You talk to the funeral home directors around here. It's been unreal how many have died. I know when Ann died, but they couldn't even get her in a funeral home at first. They had to pack her in ice in a truck. Folks, we've been through something that you you can tell your children and your children's children that I hope they never see in their lifetime again. I was a World War II baby, and so I know a little bit about that history from my parents. And I said, I never want people to go through something like this again. It can get bad. It can be tough. Some of the things we complained about a few years ago, don't they seem foolish now? Don't they seem sort of ridiculous now? Things can really, really get tough. But there's always a rainbow. God said, I'll never do that again. That's my symbol. That's my promise, God says, that I'll never destroy the earth with water again. That I'll give you a gospel. We have a gospel of salvation. A gospel, I want to save the world. I want to bring joy. I want to give forever into their vocabulary here. And those friends that we've lost, those 50-something right here, that we'll get to spend eternity with them. So Jan and Ray, just a few hours ago now that funeral was right here. We'll see them again. We'll see Ann again. How many of you have lost either a friend or a relative? Let's see your hands in the last 2 years. I believe is that every hand in here? That's amazing, folks. We have really been through something. But there's a rainbow. And every time you see a rainbow, think of the gospel. God says, I've prepared a better place. I went through this once. I made man. I said, look at man. And he says, it's good. But then he got so sinful, so corrupt. I destroyed the world with a flood. But now I've got a gospel. I've sent my son Jesus. He's died for our sins. And we can live forever and ever with Jesus and with our friends and with our family. I've gone to place to prepare for you. I love the song Because He Lives, and I'd like to close with that. Because He lives, we can face tomorrow. But I want you to look at something in this song you may have never noticed. It preaches the gospel as well as any song I've ever seen. And so we'll let it play a little longer so that you can see the gospel according to the song, Because He Lives. By the way, did you ever get a letter through the mail that you just almost fainted when you got it? Anybody got a letter that shocked you that much? Well, a few days after I did the funeral, I received a card from Brooks Kennedy. He was dead. And he had mailed that card. It had taken a little while to get there, or maybe his family mailed it. Here's his exact words. He said, Ray, gone to heaven to prepare a place for you. Jesus will pick you up soon. Love, Brooks. And he could say that to all of us here. But because he lives, there's a rainbow. And because he lives, we can face tomorrow.